Welcome, everybody, to the American Space Museum. I'm Mark Marquette. We're so glad you're with us today to stay curious. We're broadcasting from the studio inside our Humble Museum in downtown Titusville, Florida. I'm literally sitting 9 miles away from the great VAB, Vehicle Assembly Building, across the Indian River. And happy to be here with my partner, Marty Winkle, who's been co-producer and involved on behind the scenes with our Streamlabs production now for over 5 years. Hi, Marty. Marty, we're going to talk. How are you today on that UCAC family microphone?
I'm doing good, Mark. How about you?
Doing good. Obviously, when we talk about astronomy and particularly the Hubble telescope, me being a telescope nut and everything since a little boy, this is a great day for American science and science for all humanity. 35 years ago, the launch of the Hubble telescope. Can you believe it was that long ago? Tommy Usiak can't, because we're going to see some great pictures that Tom took of the Hubble. And in fact, I didn't load his pictures up. I used it on our, Marty, I used it on our promo there, but I forgot to put that slide in there of Tom that sent me there, so I apologize for that. Go look on our Facebook page. Maybe I'll pull that up here on the website. But the Hubble telescope, launched by Shuttle Transportation System number 31, was quite an event. And doggone it, I meant to put Tom's picture up there, so I'm going to take the time to show you. Here, what we teased with is this beautiful group of pictures here. Let me pull that up there that you can see. Yeah, go ahead and zoom in on it, Marty. Tom was there 35 years ago. His brother and Steve Nolte were supposed to help. Bob Preston also, but it got delayed. And there is the zoom in on his 8 pictures there of the launch with his remotes and his handheld camera from the press site. And I got talking to Tom about a half hour ago and forgot to load that picture. So now, yeah, back off of that. We don't want to scare anybody away with that picture. So, but Tom said it was an early morning launch. We're going to talk about it here as we crank up the shuttles of the month of April. All right, look at these beautiful shuttles. 18 shuttles launched in the month of April. I think November is the busiest month, with maybe one more launch. But let me get to my YouTube channel here, and so I can talk to you good folks there. And as you see, the Hubble, the oval one on the left, the 24th of April, 1990, 35 years ago. And we're going to talk about the 30th anniversary falling during COVID and how that messed up a great celebration of it. But look at all those beautiful shuttle flights. In fact, Charlie Walker, who Marty was out and saw today, you saw our good friend Charlie. He was on 51D, all right, the maiden flight of Discovery, an April 12th launch there. Kay Heyer, good friend of myself and museum, was on STS-90, a Nero lab mission. And the Germans, second German science mission in their lab, D2, was also in April. And I love looking at, we'll talk about maybe a couple more of these missions as we didn't talk about them too much because of Shuttle Fest, celebrating the one in the middle there, STS-1. And the first launch by John Young and Bob Crippen. And John Young coming back from the moon 53 years ago on this date, as he and Charlie Duke and Ken Mattingly orbiting the moon. Charlie Duke, of course, walking on the moon. Apollo 16 will splash down 55 years ago and on the 27th of the month. So I think they blasted off on this date or yesterday. So let me go back this way, go the right way. Let's look at what the insignia for the Hubble STS-31 mission is all about. The mission insignia features the Hubble Space Telescope in its observing configuration against a background of the universe it will study. The cosmos includes a stylistic depiction of galaxies in recognition of the contribution made by Edwin Hubble to our understanding of the nature of galaxies and the expansion of the universe. These were things that we'll talk about Hubble here in a little bit. Tell you about the man, Edwin Hubble, quite an interesting guy. The space shuttle trails a spectrum symbolic of both the red shift of observations that were so important to Edwin Hubble's work and the new information that will be obtained with the HST. Encircling the scene are the names of the crew members, all right? And that crew included really astronauts who become well known in the public eye and celebrities in their own right. Lauren Shriver in the center, and here you're used to seeing the astronauts maybe in their spacesuits in the photo, but they also would do many pictures at this photo session, including a session with their military or civilian clothing representing their branch of service or the type of job they did. So Stephen Hawley in the back with the suit and tie, he was just an astronomer. There was privilege to go on this, but this is Stephen's third of 5 flights. Let's look at Lauren Shriver in the middle. Second space flight of 2. He was the commander after being a pilot just one time. Charlie Bolden, this was his second as and he's a Marine there. Hoorah to the Marines, Marty was one. He's on the left there. His second of 4 space flights, and he commanded 2 shuttle flights and then become NASA administrator during the Obama administration. Up behind Charlie there, is that a Navy a double-breasted jacket there, is Bruce McCandless II. This was his second and last flight. He is deceased. We met his son at Shuttle Fest, who did a wonderful book with Emily Carney called Starbound. And then Kathy Sullivan is the other astronaut, the only woman there on the right. Kathy Sullivan, this was her second of 3 space flights. On her second flight, she did the first American woman to do a spacewalk on there. So the launch of the Hubble was somewhat, of course, delayed by the Columbia disaster backing up everything. There is the Hubble telescope in its white room with Mikey Haddad, our wonderful presenter once a month on payloads, and you're going to see another picture of Mikey with our Hubble telescope panel. They included Mikey and astronauts John Grunsfeld and Joe Tanner. But it was mothballed for over 2 years, longer than it was supposed to be. Keeping it clean was a big problem. But there's Mikey with it there. And then, of course, when it was deployed, everybody knows the famous images of the deployment on the end of the robotic arm. And then over a series of 6 upgrades and service missions, it was even upgraded with better solar panels and computers and so forth. But that last time it was touched was 15 years ago, I believe, was the last one. STS-125 was the last time to be touched. Let me quickly go through there, but so many amazing discoveries of it, and it really changed our view of the universe in many ways. The Hubble telescope did, and part of it was establishing Einstein's laws of physics and Hubble's discoveries that the universe was expanding at a very definitive rate. 16 years ago, to be exact, in May, for the last Hubble servicing mission there by Scooter Altman and his crew that included Grunsfeld on that. What else can we say about the launch of it? A little bit about the telescope itself here. Quite a technological marvel, though it was launched in 1990. Of course, it was on the drawing board in the 1980s. NASA had always dreamed of having a space telescope. Why do you want a telescope in outer space? Simply to get above the Earth's atmosphere, okay? The Earth's atmosphere is like aquarium water. If you have an aquarium and you stick a pencil in it, it bends it and refracts light, and it distorts things depending on the waves of the water. in the aquarium. And so the Earth's atmosphere acts like that. Though the thin blue line there is all of our atmosphere, less than 10 miles thick, it still has a lot of contamination in it and a lot of air cells that sometimes can be real clear or real dirty. So you want to get a telescope above the Earth's atmosphere, and then you've got 24/7 view of the universe on there. It had batteries, a lot of insulation, built like a reflecting telescope, the type of telescope that Isaac Newton invented in the 18 or mid 1700s. Galileo in 1609 turned a refracting telescope, the spyglass type, which I happen to have one here, to the sky instead of looking at ships coming in to see their mass and then alert everybody that the shipment of spices and stuff is on its way in from India and so forth. But this is a refractor with a lens at the end, and the reflecting telescope has at the end right here is the mirror. Okay, a 9-foot diameter mirror. All right, the largest put up at the time, and it was not ground perfectly, and that was a big faux pas. When the telescope got up there, the images were fuzzy, and it was a flaw in the testing by Perkins Elmer. Now, it has always been rumored that, of course, when you make a big telescope, you make 2 of them in case your mirror blank, something happens to the one you're working on, and you've got a backup. This was what was done with the 200-inch Mount Palomar Hale telescope, all right? And that telescope, the 200-inch Mount Palomar, still in use today, but it was the premier telescope for almost 30 years, and at that time was probably the most well-known scientific instrument of all time. Now it's usurped by the Hubble, that is an everyday. Everyone knows the Hubble in everyday language, in everyday life. You can't escape somewhere in the last 35 years of hearing about the Hubble telescope. Therefore, it is the most widely known scientific instrument of all humanity, without a doubt. The fact that it's lasted 35 years is incredible. I think it was given a 10-year lifespan when it was originally built, and then through the shuttle telescope going up to about 400 miles where it is in orbit, the highest orbits that the shuttle had attained. In fact, this mission STS-1, when it deployed the Hubble, was at the highest point of any shuttle at that time, about 435 miles. At one point of the mission, it reached 386 miles, the highest ever reached by an orbiter. Okay, and then they boosted it up to a little higher orbit up there. So an incredible machine that riding a rocket with everything being jumbled around, these scientific instruments that studied the visual world like we see visuals, but it also had some infrared and other sensors on there. And we'll see some pictures of that. Can't get by without the Hubble without showing Robert Law. Hello, Robert, up in Dundee, Scotland. He certainly, we enjoyed your visit and your talk here on Stay Curious when you were here, Robert. And hope that you can come back again. And we know that you'll want to be checking out Shuttle Fest 5. And we're figuring out a date for that. So see some of you saying good afternoon to me. Thank you so much. Rocket Lady Elizabeth is saying hi to all. Yes, 35 years of the launch. It is exciting what we've learned about it, and our universe has just, you can't exemplify, you can't put a number on it thanks to this instrument here. And they have a great replica of it there at the Kennedy Space Center Visitors Complex. Of course, it's all about looking into stars. And all of these are stars close to us in our Milky Way galaxy, because the hex in them is the crosshairs that hold the secondary mirror that puts the light off the main mirror on the instrument panels in there. We've all know, let's see, a little more about the Hubble launch, 8:33 in the morning. It was think it was a five-day mission. They were going to use Atlantis, but then and John Young was originally assigned to command this mission. Would have been his 7th flight, but he resigned and took an administrative position, was replaced by Lauren Shriver. So don't know why that came about, because you can't imagine John Young passing up a 7th flight, but he apparently did. There was a scrub on April 10th at T-4 minutes. A faulty valve, and then eventually they replaced it. And on launch day, the countdown was briefly halted at 31 seconds when Discovery's computers failed to shut down a fuel line, but that was fixed right away. It also had the IMAX camera in the cargo bay, and it did some amazing Hubble deploy pictures there. So, and Tom Usiak, he's got it there that John Young was the original commander of the Hubble on there. So quite an incredible mission. It ended on April 29th, 5 days later at Edwards Air Force Base, and 80 orbits of the Earth. And then when they took the first pictures, they realized it was nearsighted. So they had to come up with a fix, and they did a little lens that went in the path of where the light was. It wasn't very big. It was like putting a pair of glasses on the Hubble, and then we get great images of it all the time. Like this behind me is the 30th anniversary of the Hubble image, called Cosmic Reef. And it's not 2 pictures. It's a star that exploded, the blue one in the background, and in the foreground here we have a gaseous cloud that is the creation of stars being born on there. This is so vast. This is a 10,000 times bigger than our solar system behind my head here. And I'll talk about that in the context that when the 30th anniversary came out, there was a contest in late 2019 around museums to write an essay of why you should have a mural of this cosmic reef behind me in your museum. And so I did so, and it was approved, and we were one of 30 museums and entities selected in the United States to have this displayed. And then we were shortly alerted to that in January of 2020 for the April 30th anniversary in 2020, and then COVID pandemic hit the world, and all of a sudden they couldn't get this thing printed out in time. They kept delaying it because the manufacturer weren't working because of the COVID pandemic shutdown, and everyone quarantined. And we had some astronauts lined up that were going to be here to dedicate this, and all that went for naught. But we still did get the mural, and you'll see that here in a little bit. Let's compare the Hubble telescope to what is now in the news a lot, the Webb telescope. Though this is such a beautiful thing that both of these telescopes are working in parallel. We never thought that the Webb telescope would be orbiting and the Hubble telescope still be up there. But because they see the universe in different kinds of light, you can superimpose their images on each other and even get more data. Now, the Hubble telescope is about 28 feet. Instead of 9 feet, the Webb telescope's about 28 feet in diameter. So just one of those panels, these hexagonal panels that make up the Webb telescope, about one of those is the size of the Hubble's mirror, incredibly. This was all collapsed together like origami style, incredible, crammed into a rocket fairing that was indeed the Ariane 5 rocket launched on Christmas Day 2020, I want to say 2022. I think it's been up there 3 years now. So the fact that these are both working in consortium is a plus for astronomers everywhere. By the way, that's the barn door that's open on the Hubble, so that they would close it when the shuttle approached. Or there might be some meteor situation that they want to safe the telescope, so they would close the barn door on there so it cannot light in. Again, a comparison of the Hubble mirror. It's got a hole in the middle there so that the light goes from another secondary mirror that's reflecting into it and shooting it back through the hole to the scientific instruments. Same way with the James Webb Telescope. But look at how much bigger the Webb is, and bigger is better in astronomy because that allows you to gather more light faster. While the Hubble telescope is in an orbit around the Earth, almost 400 miles high, the Webb telescope is beyond the moon in a place called the Lagrange number 2 orbit. The L2 point is where it sort of stays in the same place all the time, all right, between with the Earth, between the sun and it, and therefore it stays out of sun's radiation. That the Webb is operated at 280 below zero. Very scientific reason for that, but its instruments are kept cold for a reason. This is perhaps the most iconic image of the Hubble telescope. This is a feature that I've observed in my telescope. It's larger than this. It's just a part of it, called the Eagle Nebula. And they dubbed this the columns of creation. And what is exactly going there is you take the little tip of this right here. That's like our solar system right there, okay? And this is a gaseous cloud where there are stars being born out of this cosmic cloud. And that is something that Edwin Hubble helped figure out how stars could be born, as well as classifying stars in galaxies and then the galaxies themselves. And we'll see more about Edwin Hubble here in a minute. So this is the Eagle Nebula, or the columns of creation, as shot by the Hubble on the left, and this is by the Webb telescope on the right. Now immediately you notice that there's a big hole here where there is just a minor hole over on the Webb telescope. What's going on? Well, the Webb telescope is seeing infrared radiation, not visible light. On the left is what it would look like if you could see it with your eyeball. On the right is what the heat signature looks like. This tells you where areas of energy are being hot and mechanical things are going on. So it's real cool here, and you're looking right through it. This is like the police shows you see where they show bodies in police have got an infrared camera, and other agencies too, and environmental groups, so that you can see heat signatures. So if they shined it in my house, they would see my heat signature sitting on a couch because my body's giving off heat or infrared radiation. And that's what's going on here. So the other areas where there is, those are cooler areas, and you're actually seeing right through some of these clouds to see the other side of the universe that's on the other side of this. Again, another feature, very well known, the Dumbbell Nebula, that is actually more of like a toilet paper roll that is seen edge on, that you're looking through it. If you tilt it to the side, it'd be like a cylinder shaped on there. But there again, you see not too much difference, except in the outer areas, there's a lot of gases that are warm and hot that you don't see in the visible light area. When you combine these two, astrophysicists go crazy with the knowledge. Now, Marty, we've seen many talks out at the out the Kennedy Space Center Visitors Complex, and none is finer than James Newman, who's seen hanging 10. He was a surfer. He loved to hang 10 on his spacewalks, putting his toes over the edge of the plate that was holding him up there. And he talked a lot about, as other astronauts do, about the Hubble, particularly the Hubble Deep Field Image. And there's Newman talking about that on the left in one of his slides. And what they did was they took a little section of the sky that looked like there was nothing in it, and every time the Hubble could take a picture of it every orbit, it took a like 5-second exposure, and then another 5, and they added them and put them all together and came up with an astounding image that is called the Hubble Deep Space Image. And in here, there's only 2 or 3 stars. That's a star because you see the X through it. That is an artifact of the telescope itself reflecting light. Every one of those other dots there are galaxies in an area the size of our moon, half a degree across, was found thousands and thousands of galaxies. The closer ones aren't necessarily the younger ones either. But the further you go back, the further you go back in time. And this was the big pioneering efforts of um, Edwin Hubble that we're going to talk about here in a minute. But this was so incredible where there seemed to be no galaxies or nothing at all from Earth based telescopes. The Hubble telescope revealed the universe is filled with galaxies, and each galaxy has hundreds of billions with a B stars. And we know that the 3,000 closest stars to Earth have over 8,000 planets orbiting them, okay? So if that's the case, there's more planets orbiting stars than there are stars in the universe. So planets on planets on planets around these billions and billions of stars in this incredible image. Well, we heard some about that at Shuttlefest, and you may see the transcript, not the transcripts, the actual videos of the panels. Bruce Jacobs is getting those buffed up for us and separating them out a little bit. There's Mikey Haddad, a level 4 NASA structural engineer. Mikey has been instrumental in getting these wonderful guests for our panelists, including astronaut Joe Tanner in the center and John Grunsfeld on the right. Joe did a early shuttle mission upgrade of it, and Grunsfeld did the last 3 upgrades of the shuttle, and in fact was the last human being to touch the shuttle. Now, the last person to touch it with a robotic arm was a lady, and her name escapes me, and she's married to Doug Benken. Bob Benken. It's Doug Hurley and Bob Benken. She's married to Bob Benken, Megan, and trying to pull her last name out, Marty. But she was on the STS-125. Megan MacArthur came to my head. That's who it was. The last one to touch it with the robotic arm. And there's Joe, what a great guy, super asset to Shuttlefest. 75 years old. He looks great. And then John Grunsfeld, and they just really laid it on everybody and about the Hubble telescope. So because I was busy, I didn't see all of their talks, but I'll be back watching them here soon on there. Dean Babcock says there's another telescope in danger of being canceled. Yes, the Roman telescope, named after Nancy Roman, an astronomer, could possibly be on the chopping blocks. And Michael Bruno says that Hubble Deep Sky is 1/24 million of the whole sky. All right, imagine that small little sector of the sky. So everywhere we look, we're probably going to see galaxies like this. Why not? Edwin Hubble, Sir Edwin Hubble. And there is the famous Andromeda Galaxy that he did a lot of work on. You can see the Andromeda Galaxy with your naked eye as a smudge in the sky, and it is 2 million light years away. All right, but let's learn a little bit about Mr. Quite an interesting character was Edwin Hubble, born November 20th, 1889 in Marshfield, Missouri, though his family moved to Wheaton, Illinois soon after his birth. At school, he earned good grades in most subjects, although he was more noted for his athletic prowess than his intellectual abilities. He was a great athlete. In 1906, he won 7 first places and a 3rd place in a single high school track meet and set a state record for high jump. He was also a keen fisherman. All right, he was a basketball player. This is the early 1900s, folks, and an amateur boxer. All right, he loved boxing, and he was a big man and had a good knockout punch, everybody said. But he was also a space geek, and from 1907 to 1910, he studied mathematics, astronomy, and philosophy at the University of Chicago and got his BS degree in 1910. Now, studying astronomy and philosophy together is an interesting mix because, you know, though I love thinking of spiritual beings, not necessarily being in control of things, but having something to do with the creation, the more you know about the universe, you're like going, what? How could there be one God or so forth? But still, I am a believer. He spent the next 3 years as one of the first Rhodes Scholars at Oxford University in London, where he studied jurisprudence before switching his major to Spanish and receiving a master's degree in Spanish. So he studied law. When he returned to the United States in 1913, he taught Spanish, physics, and math and coached a basketball team at a high school in New Albany, Indiana. And he also practiced law half-heartedly for a year in Louisville, Kentucky. What a Renaissance man. Did you know all this about Mr. Edwin Hubble? All right. Well, somewhere along the line of all this, he affected a British mannerisms and clothing. This was his time at Cambridge there. At Oxford University as a Rhodes Scholar. He adopted the English mannerisms. He got a British accent, the clothing, and he was always rocking a pipe. Okay, smoking a pipe. Even shown smoking a pipe in the observatory, which would be, oh my God, that would be so taboo for the smoke to get on the mirror. But he was a little vain and pretentious about his smarts. Okay. He was handsome, athletically fit, and an imposing presence at well over 6 feet tall. And he was a very good conversationalist, as you can imagine. He could speak Spanish, talk philosophy, talk fishing, boxing, sports, was a sports fan, and then he could talk about the universe, all right? And he become friends with some real notable people. Here, I had some other pictures here to show him. There he is on his basketball team. I guess him on the far left in University of Chicago. This is the 100-inch Hooker telescope. All right. And this, at the time, before the 200-inch Mount Palomar Hale telescope, was the most powerful telescope on Earth, 100 inches. And the mirror at the bottom is 100 inches. And you'd actually, at the top is like a cage that you would sit in, and we'll see that in a minute. So what Hubble did with this, and the Milky and the Andromeda Galaxy here, is through photography. Now this is 1910, this era here where photography now is just starting to be used in science applications. And the first photography images taken were of this galaxy. And we thought it was a nebula because it looked in telescopes, even in backyard telescopes, like a smudge, like a cigar-shaped cloud. It was thought to be a nebula. But when pictures were taken, it revealed stars. It was individual stars in this star cloud. So star cloud become a galaxy, all right? And actually that white object is another galaxy orbiting the Andromeda Galaxy. And though it's 2 million light years away, it is bigger than our Milky Way galaxy, and our gravity at 2 million miles away is such that it's attracting each other. And in 200,000 years, they think that we're going to be passing through each other, and our sky might not look any different at all when that happens because of the distances between individual stars. The universe is so huge, it's just incomprehensible. The distance between stars and galaxies and clusters of galaxies, it's just an amazing concept. Well, with this telescope, the 100-inch Hooker, Hubble made headlines. Another universe seen by astronomer. All right. Dr. Hubble describes massive celestial body 700,000 light years away. Well, we thought the Andromeda Galaxy was 700,000 light years away. We now know it's over 3 times that distance, about 2 million light years away. But this is how scientific instruments refine distances and so forth. So they called our Milky Way the entire universe, and we thought that everything that was in the universe was in the Milky Way that you see in the summer or at night, and then there's some Milky Way you can see in the wintertime. Isn't that interesting that they called it another universe seen by an astronomer, not another galaxy, because we didn't know there were any other galaxies outside the Milky Way. And then when we discovered this, they're going like, wow, how do we describe this? Here is Hubble in the cage, they call it, of the 100-inch this is the 200-inch Hale telescope mirror. You can see at the bottom down there. I think that's the 100-incher of and he's in there. So you'd actually ride the telescope as an astronomer. You would not be looking through the eyepiece as such, as you would be guiding the telescope that it stayed on where pointed at the right direction precisely, so the photographic plates would be taking things. But he certainly did look through telescopes time or time again. Discovering that our galaxy wasn't alone was just the beginning for Hubble. He continued measuring distances and velocities in deep space, finding that the further apart galaxies are from each other, the faster they move away from one another. All right? And this became known as the Hubble constant, a bedrock of astrophysics that's now being challenged by the Webb telescope. In other words, we think from some singularity, some small little thing, the universe exploded in a big bang, and as it expanded at a rate that is the infant seconds, milliseconds of our universe, as it expanded out, everything was moving away from each other at the same rate. And classically, people would take a balloon and put dots on the balloon and then blow the balloon up, and you see how the dots from the balloon are all separating away from each other at the same distance and same pace. Also, Hubble classified galaxies as he saw more and more. Once they discovered that the Andromeda Nebula was actually a galaxy, other nebulas suspected turned out to be galaxies. And there's a classification system of them. Some of them look like little ovals. Some of them get spread out arms. And then some of them get like spread out arms with a bar in the middle. And this is what our Milky Way galaxy is more like, this right here by my hand, right there. A bar through it with a couple arms spreading off of it. Or more like this SBB there, classification system. So, and this is sort of like the tuning fork classifications, where once a galaxy reaches a certain amount of stars or amount of mass, it spreads off into one tongue of it, and then the other mass is on the other. So again, the Hubble Field Telescope showing you hundreds of galaxies there in one image. It's just so incredible. Well, Hubble was also very, very sociable. Where are these great telescopes? Well, of course, they're in the Los Angeles area, on the mountains, Santa Monica Mountains, outside of Pasadena, California, Los Angeles. So Hubble became famous in the newspaper. He got a big ego over it, of course. So where does the big ego end up? You're right, Hollywood. Okay. So he became really good friends with, of course, Einstein was a contemporary at the time. There's Hubble in the back, like I said, rocking a pipe. This was one of the technicians at the Mount Palomar telescope. Maybe they put it on a planet or maybe Andromeda Galaxy, but there's two great men of science there looking through the 200-inch Hale telescope there. And like I said, you're going to live near Hollywood, so you're going to become friends with Charlie Chaplin there. Was a great friend of his, as was there was Einstein and Chaplin. Harpo Marx, Helen Hayes, a great actress. Lillian Gish, one of the first silent movie star actresses. William Randolph Hearst of the great newspaper fortune. And he was also a great confidant of Aldous Huxley and his wife. Aldous Huxley, of course, the great writer of such books as, what did Huxley write, Marty? Did he write 1984 or in Lord of the Flies? Marty doesn't know, but someone's Steve Jokrams is watching there. Yeah, Edwin Hubble and Rocket Lady Elizabeth is enjoying this, as he was a true Renaissance man. And imagine, being a nerd, and you're hanging out with Einstein, and really Charlie Chaplin was the greatest name in Hollywood until like the 1950s, when Valentino and these others start coming up. So quite a life that Edwin Hubble left. The whole thing is so much bigger than I am. I can't understand it. So I just trust myself to it and forget about it. All right. And that's a pragmatic way for a philosopher as well as a boxer, an athlete to look at life. You know, he's analyzing what's in front of him, whether it be a high jump he's got to execute, or digest some philosophical rendering by one of the great philosophers there. There is the beautiful Hubble telescope, and one of the most iconic images of the space age. Of course, it's got the silver on it to reflect the heat. The telescope portion is here. The barn door is open, gathering data. So this had been serviced and is moving away from the telescope. As John Grunsfeld told us, that's how you can tell that we'd done our job, was that the barn door was open and they were already checking the amount of light coming in on the Hubble telescope. Again, another quote from Edwin Hubble with his ever-present pipe. Equipped with his five senses, man explores the universe around him and calls the adventure science. Edwin Powell Hubble, forever to be remembered, because not just for his accomplishments that would keep him remembered in the annals of science forever, but now this telescope named after him. And of course, the James Webb telescope was named after not a scientist, but one of the greatest businessmen of NASA. All right, James Webb, the architect of the Apollo program, as far as its financing and administration of it. Hope Dave Stangy's enjoying this. Julie Clay, great to have you on board. Carlton Bailey, Rocket Lady Elizabeth, Dean Babcock, Mark Usiak, Robert Law, Steve Jokums, Michael Bruno, Alia Alabara, and Aldous Huxley, Brave New World. Thank you, Marty. I knew that was one of his great there, where he predicted the future that is so scary. That Brave New World, 1984. Go back and read those. They'll scare the crap out of you. Big Brother is among us. You better believe it. So Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Couple ways to end this was our 30th anniversary Hubble legacy. They didn't do a whole bunch of 35th anniversary promotion like this. At least it's escaped my inbox. But here is the beautiful cosmic reef that was revealed as the prize for this essay that we wrote here at the American Space Museum and 30 other institutions. So, of course, for our Shuttle 4, celebrating the 35th anniversary of Hubble, we found it. We had it in our gallery here for a while, a Hubble gallery for about 2 years, and that became our studio. And then I found it, and there is the great Bob Seek, launch director, on the left, and Terry White on the right, unveiled it at Hubble at Shuttle Fest. There I am in the background with Nick Thomas. Thank you so much, Nick Thomas, for his professional MC and job there. But beautiful, isn't it, folks? And it's just a legacy image, but they didn't do that for the 35th, and I wish they had. So they did put a website out with some of the greatest hits of the Hubble. And some of these, like the the upper left-hand corner, that's a nursery of stars. And then the center is the round structure is a star that burped and its outer areas came apart. The middle left is another star that blew up in more violent way. All right. As well as this is the Tarantula Nebula, lower left, second in. See how it looks like a spider? That's a star that blew up. And then sometimes stars will burp their outer layers and then blow up cataclysmically. And then the inner layer catches up with the outer layer and creates all this beautiful, beautiful stuff. Behind me, here's a panorama of some galaxies here that are juxtaposed on each other. And but everywhere we look, the universe is filled with hydrogen molecules created in such a way that they create stars, planets, and galaxies. So what we know about science today in the 35 years that the Hubble telescope has been changing science is truly astonishing. You can't put it all together in one book about the discoveries that the Hubble has reaped. 35 years of data. It will be thought about for another 35 years the data will take that long, some of it to be analyzed by citizen scientists, maybe like you out there, that are volunteering your time to do it there. So thank you, folks, for straightening me out on Huxley there. You have Brave New World, great book. I think I'll revisit that. I recently took out 1984 on audio tape, and that was just amazing to listen to that compared to what's going on in our world now in 2025. 1984 has been eclipsed many times, that book. But hope you enjoyed not only learning about the Hubble telescope, but about the man behind the Hubble, Sir Edwin Hubble. Very interesting character, and lived a good long life, and deservedly had a lot of fame. Tomorrow, thank you all for watching. Tomorrow is Friday, so I'm going to take you out in your backyard so we can see what's in your backyard as far as stargazing. So I think you'll be interested in some of the things that are missing from your backyard that were there a month ago, and some things that are there that are going to be very fascinating, including we're looking, when you look up to the east in the sky, you're looking into the window of the universe, as we're in the part of our galaxy that's looking into all those other galaxies out there far, far away. So thank you for watching today. Marty, thank you for a great job on Streamlabs. And until tomorrow, when we do some backyard astronomy, I'm Mark Marquette saying I can't wait to see you again to bridge the space between us.